Hey guys, I break down the most jaw-dropping finds from Antiques Roadshow. Only the best, no filler. Plus, I give my take on their current value. What do you think they're worth? Drop your guess in the comments. Hidden away in an attic for decades, the chair had been an unexpected discovery when the guest's mother found it in her grandmother's house in Dayton, Ohio during the 1960s.
Nobody else knew it was there, and when she brought it down, everyone wanted it. She had it for the rest of the time, and we have it.
The guest had no idea who made the chair or where it had come from, only that they had never seen anything quite like it. That mystery was quickly solved when the appraiser pointed out a distinct marking on the back, an R with a vertical saw. This was the signature of Charles Rolfs, a highly distinctive arts and crafts furniture maker known for his bold sculptural designs. Unlike other prominent furniture makers of the period, such as Gustav Stickney, who operated large factories, Rolfs worked in a small studio with only a handful of apprentices. His approach was unconventional, pushing the boundaries of what furniture could be. His designs were often more like sculptures than traditional functional pieces. Adding to its uniqueness, the chair was made of mahogany rather than the usual quarter-sawn oak Rolfs typically used. Though there was some minor damage, it did little to affect the chair's overall value. Rolf's furniture was highly sought after by top collectors, and this piece was no exception. At auction, the appraiser estimated the chair to be worth between
$80,000 and $120,000 at auction.
The guest was stunned, struggling to believe what they had just heard.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Congratulations, a fantastic chair.
This painting, titled Navajo Camp No. 1 by William Robinson Lee, had been in the guest's family for generations.
It came down through the family. My great-grandmother bought it at an estate sale probably in about 1940.
Though the exact amount she paid remained unknown, an inscription found on the back of the painting revealed that its original price was $65. William Robinson Lee, one of the most important Taos painters, lived from 1866 to 1955. Born in West Virginia to a family of Southern aristocrats, he was even a descendant of Pocahontas. This particular painting was an everyday scene he may have witnessed firsthand. Lee favored depicting Zuni, Hopi, and Navajo tribes, and the composition of Navajo Camp No. 1 was particularly striking. Though the work was somewhat smaller than many of his paintings, and the brushwork on one of these figures less detailed, it still showcased his masterful use of light and shadow. The painting remained in its original frame, a style commonly used in Taos artwork, and was likely completed in the 1920s. While the guests record an appraisal from 2 decades earlier, valuing the painting between
At that time, $10,000 to $12,000.
The market for Western art had remained strong, and if the painting were in a gallery today, its value would be an astonishing.
I would ask $75,000.
Jeez.
The revelation left the guests nearly speechless.
Well, I promised that I wasn't going to say, oh my God, but oh my God.
The Scrimshaw Teeth had been in the guest's family for generations. Originally belonging to their great-great-great-grandfather, a ship's captain who sailed out of New England.
He was a merchant marine. He probably picked it up at one of the ports as a souvenir.
Now they stood as rare and beautifully preserved artifacts of maritime history. Polychrome Scrimshaw pieces of this caliber were virtually unheard of, making these a remarkable find. The front of the teeth depicted a finely detailed gentleman and lady, but it was the reverse sides that truly set them apart. There, a dramatic whaling scene unfolded, a majestic ship braving the waves, whalers setting out in small boats, harpoons raised, and seabirds circling above. The imagery captured both the artistry of the scrimshander and the perilous nature of 19th century whaling. The level of craftsmanship, the vividness of the engravings, and the exceptional polychrome detail placed these pieces among the finest examples of Scrimshaw, with an estimated auction value between
Estimate them in the $30,000 to $50,000 range.
The guest was pleased, knowing that their family had every reason to be proud of this extraordinary heirloom. The Picasso drawing had an unexpected journey before it found its way into the guest's family. Before he ever met his wife, she had been in an on-again, off-again relationship with another man, a suitor who was desperate to win her back.
So during one particular period, he thought a clever way to get back with her would be to give her a Picasso autograph if he could get it.
To accomplish this, he wrote a letter to Art Butchwald, the renowned columnist for the Herald Tribune and the Philadelphia Evening Bulletin, pleading for his help in securing the artist's signature. It must have been a slow news day in Paris because Bouchwald decided to make a column out of the request. As luck would have it, Douglas Duncan, a photographer and close friend of Picasso, read the article aloud to the artist while he was painting.
Picasso supposedly put down his paintbrushes, said, hand me a piece of paper and some pencils, and he did this colored drawing here.
At the bottom, he inscribed a dedication, pour Miss Gloria Siegel, the name of the guest's future wife, before signing it simply Picasso. A telegram soon arrived in Philadelphia, announcing the extraordinary gift, and local newspapers buzzed about it. Yet, in a twist of fate, the grand romantic gesture failed.
The irony of it, of course, is that he's out of the picture now, right? I married her, and therefore I married into a family with a Picasso.
The appraiser examined the drawing closely, noting its bold, colourful strokes and the fold marks from when it had been mailed. Dated 1958, it was created in Cannes, France, and while Picasso was known to do quick drawings, this one had a particularly unique backstory. It was not just a spontaneous sketch, but a piece tied to a widely publicised event, making it all the more special.
And you know, the envelope that this came in, which I cannot find, is misplaced. The stationery was Picasso's personal watermark stationery. You could hold it up to the light, and you could see his name.
Actually, you said it. You had taped it on the back of the frame?
He had taped it to the back of the frame for safekeeping, but over time it had gone missing. This meant there was, in fact, a second Picasso drawing that had yet to be found. Years ago, when Picasso was still alive, the drawing had been appraised for around
to be worth about $6,000.
But the market had changed. Its current auction value is
a value of about $12,000 to $18,000.
However, because of the extraordinary provenance, the value could rise even higher, reaching between
I would put its auction value at $15,000 to $20,000.
Wow.
What began as a cherished family heirloom turned out to be an exceptional piece of American history. The guest had inherited the desk and bookcase from his mother's side of the family, tracing its lineage to Governor Richard D. Hubbard of Connecticut. The origins of the piece, however, extended beyond Connecticut, leading the appraisers to suspect a New York connection, a suspicion that would soon be confirmed. The meticulous craftsmanship immediately stood out. The square claw and ball feet, graduated drawers, and the basket of flowers and nuts carved into the finial were all hallmarks of 18th century New York furniture making. Upon opening the lid, the classic New York interior is marvelous, with its curved valances and buck-matched panels resembling flames rising from a fire. Then they uncovered a rare treasure, a label affixed inside the desk that reads,
It says Samuel Prince Joiner at the Chest of Drawers in Cart and Horse Street, New York. Makes and sells all sorts of joiner's work on the lowest terms.
Since Prince worked from 1772 until his death in 1778, this masterpiece was over 245 years old. It is really rare for a labelled 18th century furniture piece to appear on the market. Also, the desk and bookcase were not a later combination. Every detail, from the poplar backboard to the continuous grain pattern in the panels, proved that the piece was original and untouched. However, given its exceptional condition, original brasses, and extraordinary provenance, the estimated auction value is at
This piece would be $150,000 to $200,000. Okay, and I'd like to say also, in retail, for instance, in New York, it could easily put $250,000.
Stunned but composed, the guest accepted the news.
Well, thank you very much.
Well,
That's
you're welcome.
good.
Welcome. Thanks for sharing your Sunday with us.
Thank you. We finished, I guess.
What was once a cherished family artifact, used to push children around the living room, turned out to be a rare and highly valuable piece of Native American craftsmanship. The guest's grandfather had purchased the Burl Bowl in the 1920s at a sale in Nova Scotia, Canada, and family lore had always suggested it was of Mi'kmaq origin. However, upon closer examination, it was determined that while it was definitely Native American made, its exact tribal attribution remained uncertain.
That it's Native American made and probably from the Canadian Maritime area, one of those tribes.
The bowl itself was crafted from elm wood, a tree native to the area. The elongated grain confirmed its material, and the fact that it was made from burl meant that it was perfectly suited for shaping into a durable, functional vessel. Measuring 24 inches long, 16.5 inches wide and 9 inches high, its unusually large size made it a standout example of its kind. In terms of age, it dated back to the 18th century, making it over 200 years old. While its value a decade ago might have been around $15,000, the increasing demand for authentic Native American artifacts had quadrupled its worth. An auction estimate would be
between $40,000 and $60,000.
What was thought to be a priceless 18th century Italian violin turned out to be an exceptionally well-made forgery. The guest's great-aunt Marie, a violinist in Cincinnati, had owned this instrument, which was purchased for her in 1921 from the Rudolf Wurlitzer Company for a staggering $1,000. The bill of sale attested that the violin was made by Camillus Camilli in Mantua, Italy in 1737, a time when Mantua's violin makers were deeply influenced by the legendary Stradivarius. Upon close examination, however, telltale signs that the instrument was not an authentic Camilli was discovered. While the violin displayed high-quality craftsmanship, including a finely carved spruce top and beautifully textured opio wood back, certain details suggested it was a forgery, right down to its Latin-labeled interior and its corresponding registration number from Wurlitzer's records. Despite not being the real deal, the violin still held significant value, estimated at
it was between $6,000 to $8,000.
Even more surprising was the bow, an unassuming yet valuable French-made piece crafted from Pernambuco wood. Though in rough shape, it bore a faded stamp identifying it as the work of Caresser and Francais, Paris. Further analysis revealed distinct features tying it to Claude Thomasin, a master bowmaker of the early 20th century. The bow alone carried the same estimate of,
and that is about $6,000 to $8,000.
A Minneapolis miller's home uniform from 1950, purchased for $50 at a collector's show, turned out to be a historic sports artifact of immense value. The guest had owned it for 2 decades, but it wasn't until digging deeper into its background that he made an astonishing discovery. Willie Mays, the legendary Say Hey Kid, had worn this exact uniform during his brief minor league career before being called up to the New York Giants in 1951. The breakthrough clue was a team repair on the right sleeve, a unique feature that matched a period photograph of Mays wearing the uniform. This forensic-level detective work confirmed the jersey's authenticity. Additionally, the lettering and ribboning details were consistent with the team's style at the time. The uniform remained in immaculate condition, further adding to its significance. Given its connection to one of baseball's greatest players, its value was staggering, estimated at
in the $60,000 to $80,000 range today.
This was a once-in-a-lifetime find, a remarkable relic of baseball history.
When this walked in, I was speechless. It is truly a remarkable piece of history. And it just does not get any better than this.
A stunning western landscape by Birger Sanson, this painting was a family treasure with a direct connection to the artist. The guest's aunt, who attended the Utah State University in 1927.
My auntie, who was going to school there at that time, bought it from him.
She carefully inscribed the back, noting the purchase date and location, Logan, Utah. The painting, titled Aspens, Logan Canyon, Utah, captures the vivid colors and sunlight that define Sanson's signature style. Originally trained in Sweden, Sanson moved to the US to paint the American West, drawing inspiration from the landscapes of Utah and Kansas. His style evolved from tonalism, a soft, dreamlike aesthetic, into a bold post-impressionist technique, often compared to Van Gogh. The painting featured his characteristic thick impasto, with vibrant colors and rich textures that made his work instantly recognizable. With the recent surge in value of Western and American regionalist art, at auction, this painting would fetch between
I think you could expect it to sell in the range of between $30,000 and $50,000.
Oh my goodness.
While its insurance value should be set around
of $60,000 or $65,000.
Oh.
The guest was stunned.
Yes, I think you better.
A remarkable find from an estate auction, held in a rehabbed chicken house no less, turned out to be a 17th century Dutch atlas by Frederick de Witt, a celebrated cartographer of the era. The guest had purchased the book for just $40, believing it was an 1898 atlas based on an inscription from the city of Grenoble, which gifted it to a cartographer who traveled to America that year. The auctioneer, too, had assumed it was from the late 19th century. Upon closer examination, however, the exquisite hand-colored maps were recognized, which included detailed illustrations of the world and continents. The atlas, dating back to 1680 to 1685, was in remarkable condition, making it an extraordinary find. Initially, the guest had planned to sell the individual plates for $10 apiece at a flea market, but after hearing the true value, a staggering,
I would estimate at $30,000 to $50,000.
Wow.
A stunning discovery at a church bazaar, this vivid and colorful landscape turned out to be the work of Marion Kavanagh Watchell, a renowned California Impressionist painter. Drawn to the piece because it reminded her of Lake Louise, the guest purchased it for just $4 or $5, unaware of its true significance. Watchell, who trained at the Art Institute of Chicago under the famous American Impressionist William Merritt Chase, later moved west to work on Santa Fe Railroad murals. Settling in California, she became one of the few prominent female impressionists of her era, painting extensively in the Sierra Nevada mountains. This particular piece, brimming with bright natural tones, showcases her mastery of light and landscape. Given the rising market for California Impressionist works, the appraiser estimated its value at
$30,000 to $40,000 today.
A staggering revelation for the guest.
Well, I liked it. I liked it because, as I said, it's cheerful and it's outdoors and it would look very nice to have in the living room.
A cherished family heirloom, this Hawaiian coup-wood poi calabash had been in the guest's husband's family for over a century. Originally acquired in the 1880s, it was a wedding gift in 1920.
And it sat on my husband's grandmother's floor for 70 years. The kids used to get in it and spin around. And when they got too big, then they couldn't spin in the bowl.
It is immediately recognized as an ancient Hawaiian umek poi bowl, a rare and exquisite example of traditional craftsmanship. Unlike other Polynesian cultures, Hawaiians transformed their food vessels into high-walled bowls, specifically designed for poi, a staple taro-based dish. This masterfully crafted piece had a floating organic form, its thin walls carved from the crotch of a tree, with 3 distinct wood grain patterns forming a swirling effect. A design that was exceptionally difficult to achieve. Adding to its uniqueness were historical repairs by Herrick, a renowned German craftsman in Honolulu who worked on elite Hawaiian artifacts in the late 19th century. His distinctive repair techniques, including wooden patches, pegs, and butterfly reinforcements, transformed each fix into a piece of art itself. The bowl's untouched interior, retaining its original patina, only increased its authenticity and value. If placed in a Honolulu antique shop, the appraiser estimated it would be priced at
between $20,000 and $30,000.
The guest was stunned by the appraisal, instantly reconsidering its treatment.
Wow. I think that's amazing. I was too rough with it. I'll have to treat it more kindly.
A striking red lacquer elephant vase, once believed to have graced the Winter Palace in Peking, carried an air of regal history, though its true origins and condition affected its ultimate value. The guest had owned it for 30 years, a gift from his father, who had purchased it from a local auction house in 1963 for $500. The whereabouts of its matching pair remained unknown. Identified as an elephant vase, named for its distinctive elephant head handles, it was a majestic example of Chinese lacquerware, a painstaking craft requiring hundreds of layers of tea-sap lacquer, each layer taking days to dry. While its impressive presence was fitting for a palace setting, several key details, such as deeply but not finely cut lotus motifs and the absence of a mark on the base, suggested that rather than being an 18th century imperial piece, it was more likely crafted around 1880 during the late Qing dynasty, still possibly for palace use. Unfortunately, significant damage heavily impacted the vase's value. Missing deer antlers, a large crack, and a poorly executed repair using plastic wood had compromised its integrity. While such issues would have once rendered it nearly worthless, the modern surge in demand for Chinese antiques meant that even in damaged condition, the vase could fetch.
Would expect to get somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000 for it.
I see. Thank you.
A remarkable piece of folk art, this intricately layered sand bottle was crafted by Andrew Clemens, a deaf-mute artist from McGregor, Iowa, using nothing more than grains of colored sand, a fish hook, and a wooden stick. The guest's great-grandfather, a Union Army sergeant from Illinois.
And this was a gift from 2 of his friends, and it's been in my family ever since.
What makes this piece so extraordinary is its level of detail and precision. The 36-star American flag and eagle motif, along with the sergeant's name inscribed in script, were all meticulously formed using only natural sand, without adhesives or dyes. Even more impressive, the bottom label confirmed the artist's signature, reading,
says, "Pictured rock and sand by A. Clemens, deaf-mute, from McGregor, Iowa."
Clemens, who lost his hearing and speech due to brain fever at age 5, developed his unique sand art technique while attending the Iowa School for the Deaf. His work eventually gained national recognition, and today his bottles are highly sought after by collectors and museums. Given the rarity and historical significance of the piece, the appraiser estimated its value at
That it's between $4,000 and $6,000 is what we'd estimate. It might bring more than that.
This stunning artifact is not just a family heirloom, but an extraordinary American folk artistry.